6 o'clock, we're gonna call the meeting to order. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We need to have approval of the agenda.
And it's a revised agenda.
Okay.
The reason it's revised is we had our MAP, EOC, and APR scores ready, and DESI pulled them out yesterday and said they're embargoed until next week. They're making corrections, they're adding the science test to it. So I pulled it off instead of tabling it.
Okay.
Because we can't share the data until they tell us we can. So
Okay.
it'll be December board meeting, we'll present on that. And that's why it's a revised agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor? I don't vote. So vote. Okay. All right, now we need approval of the minutes of the regular board session that was on October 15th and 2019 at 6 p.m. We need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Approved. Now I need approval of the executive session minutes that was held October 15th, 2019 at 6:54 p.m.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, now an authorization for payment of bills. Does anybody have any questions on that? I need a motion to approve that.
So
All those in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. Do we have any citizens' communications?
We do not.
Okay, no citizens' communications. All right, so we go to the administrator's report. Melissa, are you ready?
So what I have for, oh, give me 1 second, I'm sorry. We had parent-teacher conferences in October, and had a really great attendance. We had 95% attendance across the board, pre-K through 5, including our specials teachers, so pretty good. We also held activity night with 60% attendance from the elementary students, and what we did there, we kind of divide them up into subgroups. So K2 had a different breakout than 3-5 did, and breakouts consisted of math and reading activities. We had snacks that night with juice, apples, and caramel, and then we had different activities that they could do. So they would listen to a story, along with paint sun catchers that they got to take home, of leaves of fall that they got to take home. We also have started tutoring, and we referred 34 students, and we had 27 of those students that accepted. So that's really going well. We've had a nice turnout with that. Teachers are getting a lot of things done with kids, being able to meet in those small groups and get some one-on-one. We also had Veterans Day, and some of the things that the elementary students did to prepare for that, they wrote letters to the veterans. They practiced their songs, and you saw some of their artwork if you were here on that day. We did have some soloists in the elementary who had little group parts. Bryant Western, Mark Henry, Robbie Wiles, Melina Miller, Lily Penn, and Ava Miller all did a great job. The next thing that we have coming up is our Christmas program. So with our Christmas program, K2 is going to be singing traditional songs. And then 3-5 is going to do something a little bit different. The 5th graders are still going to put on their traditional performance, but the 3rd and 4th graders are going to kind of be the choir to go along with it, kind of like what Mrs. Lehman used to do. So kind of going back to that in a sense. We also have a 4th through 6th grade choir that will be doing something that night as well, so that's kind of new. And the other new thing that we have that is getting ready to start is math team. So we have our elementary math team that will have their first practice on Thursday. So we're busy.
Wonderful. I do know, I had a veteran out here, and they really did appreciate those letters.
Good.
Those letters are cool.
Good. I know Jackson got a letter back, and he loved it. So
Yeah.
he was so excited about that.
That's neat.
So, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Manta.
On November 1st, the middle school students had their first dance of the year. I got my first experience as a DJ, which I enjoyed, but I think they needed to dance a little bit more. It was a costume dance. There were several awards given out for scariest, funniest, most original. The kids really got into it, and it was a good time, and it was fun to see them kind of in a different light. First quarter ended, so we had our first competition. We have our house system in the middle school. We had the end of the competition for first quarter, and Team O won. So the competition consists of them being involved in sports or academic teams, them going to the games, their attendance, their grades, really every aspect of the school day. We try to measure it somehow so that everybody can be involved and everyone can provide some success to their team. This time around, Team O1, they were able to choose from a variety of celebrations. They chose to have donuts and minute-to-minute games during their specials time, so they all got to come together, 6th through 8th graders, all that team. It was an enjoyable time, and it was fun to see them enjoy that and really get into that team aspect. On the high school side, members of the National Honor Society volunteered at the food cupboard. They're rotating every month with which organization goes down there, and it was National Honor Society's turn, and they were down there volunteering on November 8th. And then last, we had 30 foreign language club members. They went to Truman State University for the foreign language festival there. They're able to take in several different breakout sessions, as well as going to the planetarium, where they had a variety of presentations, one in Spanish, one in German, I think one in French, and they didn't know the languages, but they just really enjoyed the atmosphere, and they also ate at La Pa for Mexican for lunch, which they also enjoyed. So it was a good experience for all the students.
All right, Keith's not here. Nancy?
One thing I wanted to report on, I didn't get on my report. We are going to be canceling our occupational therapy services through Northeast Regional effective February 1st. They have raised their rates considerably this year, and our occupational therapist assistant that we currently use has separated from them and is going to be employed by the co-op. So we are going to continue services with her through the co-op at a much decreased rate. So we'll still have the same person, and she'll still be here at the same time, serving the same kids, but it'll be at a cost savings to the district, so.
Okay, are you, no food service
Yes,
report,
I'm
do you have this?
I have, well, no, she didn't, it was crazy, she's been really busy, so, we don't have a full course meal either, so I told her it's okay, so. As far as, I went to NAPT beginning of this month, learned a lot of information. There's a lot of information out there. It's kind of one of those things you think you're progressive in everything you do when you sit at a table and someone listens to you talk about what you're doing. They're like, wow, you're behind the times, aren't you? So we were talking about buses, and they were talking about what kind of student tracking information do you use on your bus, what kind of routing information do you use on your bus, what do you do for pre-trips, and well, we do everything paper pencil, and and as far as tracking the students, we don't have a system, but so there was a lot of talk about the whole tracking the students, and so kids walk on with their lunch card, and boom, that scans it, lets them know, lets the parents know in a text, your student just boarded this bus. Then when they walk off the bus, they scan the card, parents get a notification, your kid made it to the stop. If you have a sub-driver, there's some that, if you have a sub-driver, it tells the driver you have to stop 500 feet and drop off 3 students. So it kind of, the system kind of knows based on who's got on the bus, who's supposed to get off, and then like with pre-trip, they take a tablet, they walk around the bus, they do their pre-trip, log it, goes immediately into the system, logs the miles and everything, so, you know, it'd be nice for Lacey and Marcia at the end of the year, this is exactly what the miles are, so it was interesting to see, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's pretty intense, and one of the companies that seemed to be one of the biggest companies that most people like is the same company that does our student information system. So they're gonna give Joe and Steve and I a presentation on that Thursday through a webinar, so kind of excited to see what that brings, but I keep thinking back to, you know, when other schools have had a bus accident and they can't generate, you know, which kids, and honestly, I mean, we'll be, you know, standing out there and there'll be a change, oh, this kid needs to go on this bus, not that bus, 5 minutes before the buses leave. So that would be difficult for us to produce, you know, here's every kid that was on that bus, so I think it's something that's worth looking into and checking into, so that was pretty exciting. And then talked a lot about the new features on the buses, and I think it's predominantly on Bluebird, with all the driver assist features, you know, with the stopping and with the cameras. Am I right? It's Bluebird, right?
Bluebird with mobile.
So, yeah, so that's pretty exciting. A lot of these features you're seeing on cars now, you're gonna start, you know, seeing on these buses, and you know, safety features. So when you're driving down the road, if you know something happens, so that was exciting to listen to some of that. There was a lot of information on electric buses while I was there. I'm still trying to figure out some information. There's some states that are leaning on electric companies to put them back on the grid, and that's, you know, that's how they're, you know, affording the buses. The electric company's paying the majority of the portion of the bus, so it's nice to know there's some states doing that, so I think we need to put pressure on our state to do that if we want to go that direction. So I'm working on putting some information together on all of that I've learned, and all in all, it was a good conference and learned a lot. Next part of my report, we have that new law that went into effect, and all of you guys have to do board training, refresher. So it's not 16 hours, it's just a 1 hour refresher. So I sent you an email earlier tonight. There's 2 videos on there. If you click on the link, you watch those 2 videos. And right now, like tomorrow at my meeting, they're supposed to give us like a sheet that you guys can sign off saying you did the training, that you've watched the videos. So next board meeting, I'll bring that sheet, and if you've watched those videos, then you can sign off. But, if you're not a new board member, because a new board member is gonna go through the 18.5 hours, they added 2.5 hours to that. If you're not a new board member, then every year you have to do the 1 hour refresher. But our board association put a video together, so you guys don't have to go somewhere for the training. You can watch those videos. They're pretty good. I watched them. There's, you know, makes sense, and it's a good refresher, and they're gonna try and update it every year. If there's new laws or anything like that, they're gonna try and update it to reflect what's new out there. So that's all I have. That's Merry Christmas.
Yes. All right, there's no unfinished business. New business, propane bus.
We do have guests
Presentation.
tonight. John will let you introduce everybody, and you guys all do have a handout.
Thank you for letting us come and talk with the board tonight. I'm Johnny Bachman with Prairie Land FS. Tonight with me, one of my associates, Dave Yu, local Chad Young, Central State Bus. He's here for any other questions about the buses. So I am the propane guy. So what I want to talk to everybody tonight is how I think propane can benefit Knox County. So with that, get into what I have in front of you, availability, how you guys could use propane as your fuel of choice for your next buses as you buy any. There is still today the Duro program that would help cover 45% of the cost of a new bus. This program was put into effect trying to replace the Knox emissions that have become from the diesel buses. A propane bus is the same engine as a gasoline bus. If you'd see my pickup outside, it literally can run on gasoline or propane. So everything is the same between a propane and gasoline bus. Also, to help pay for the new propane bus, Missouri Propane Education Research Council, which you guys might have heard as MOPARC, is putting up $2,000 for a grant for any new propane-powered school bus that's bought here in the state of Missouri. So when you get into the actual cost of each unit, propane is just right there with all the other ones, as your diesel units going on, but we're gonna be looking at the life of it. So looking at the life of a bus, we're talking 12 years. Getting the information from Andy from what the buses here have been running, we're looking at about 204,000 miles for the life of the bus, if it is kept for 12 years. Of course, that's all running off averages. So looking at that, breaking it down to where propane, once again, will show to where it's right there at the cost of what any other bus would be. If you looking towards electric bus, the price of it is staggering, the difference. One thing I want you guys to realize, the propane bus is not relying on anything else to help it, to make sure the school districts could actually afford to use them. Not only is propane the fuel that a lot of the schools are going to here in Missouri, by the end of, or the start of school in 2020, there's gonna be over 250 propane buses running today. So with that being said, I mean, it's a proven fuel for this area. Cause just like your diesel or gasoline engine, it'll run around here. I mean, we're not in a tight pattern. The routes here are very, I think 100, 101 miles they can go to for the school bus routes, to where a propane bus has a 100-gallon tank on it. So you're looking at a minimum of 400-mile range going anywhere. When we get to the cost of actually just running the vehicles, once again, propane is coming out to where it's right there with everybody. Using the factors that I've been told from Andy on the diesels, electric is a little bit unknown. I reached out as far as I could. If anybody knows, there's nobody within 3 states of here running electric. So there wasn't a lot of data I could actually gather to prove or show the difference. Because once again, I'm here to just compare apples to apples, so you guys can make the best choice for the school. So running off of the propane or the diesel or the electric, breaking it down for the run time, going over the miles, going off of general knowledge of numbers, and this is something that is just numbers. So I don't know the true cost of everything, how the school is paying for it. Today, the electric rate, how that would be locked in, if it would not be locked in, same thing to where you guys have already been buying diesel fuel. So propane is the same commodity where we can actually contract the gas, have a fixed price for the year, or even up to 2 years. So you guys would actually know what the budget would need to be for that fuel. When we get into our maintenance over the life of the bus, just like a gasoline motor, the LP motor does not have the same components as like a diesel bus. I'm sure you guys have been able to, unfortunately, have to work on a DEF system on a diesel bus, turbos on a diesel bus, many things, DEF system on them, to where the cost associated with them buses is not there with the propane bus. Them numbers from bus to bus vary so much. It'd be something that you guys would just want to look at your own records and see how much of that you've actually had to spend, because like I said before, I want to keep everything apples to apples. If there is more cost there, maybe, but I can't assume that, because I want to be able to give you a clear picture of what we're looking at. The only thing that really comes down to the end with the electric bus to a propane bus is the unknown element of the backbone. There's no good data show the life of a battery electric bus. You know, I do know what the life of a propane engine is. So with that associated cost with the electric battery is probably the scariest thing to think about, because today's price of that battery is $135,000. So at the end of the life of this bus, you're gonna be in that time frame, no matter what happens, that battery's gonna have to be replaced. I'm sure with the new technology coming down the road, they're gonna be able to cut that cost down. By how much though? You know, so even if they drop it to half of what today's cost is, you're still looking at over $67,000. And on the life of that bus, that's 33 cents per mile. So if we look at the total cost per mile, that number is reflecting the life of the bus. So a diesel bus, we're looking at 55 cents cost. A propane bus is at 50 cents a mile cost. An electric bus would be $1.14 cost, with the numbers I've been able to find. I would love to see that you guys look at these numbers and actually use the data you have that I might not, to actually make your own decision, because that's gonna be their true number. I'm not gonna sit here and talk about what I think can happen. All I know is what propane has already been proven to. Other things to think about with the diesel to a fossil fuel engine is diesel to propane. Propane doesn't need to be plugged in at night. You know, I don't know how the buses get plugged in here, but, you know, a block heater on anybody that has a bigger truck can run 25, 30 bucks a month if it's plugged in all the time. That's not even in these numbers. Just because I don't know exactly how much is the vehicle would be plugged in, so instead of throwing in a number that I don't know about, I just left them out. That way it can actually be a true number if you guys would know that. The other idea, looking at things, the propane school bus can be worked locally on. You don't have to travel anywhere. There's people actually in the area that are trained for it. So any type of repair that the local shop can't take care of, you still don't have to go very far to get it taken care of. So over the period of the life, consider the propane powered school bus, it's gonna be over $10,000 advantage over the diesel. But when you go to the electric bus, with these numbers, we're talking over $130,000. And I don't know about you, but I don't know what, I'm sure there's a lot of things the school could use $130,000 for. So at this time, I'd really like to open it up to questions, because I know propane is nothing you guys have seen around here yet. So if there's anything I could explain, I'd love to be able to.
So the life of the propane bus, are you saying it's around 12 years too?
So we're just using 12 years as a number. So if there was an associated cost, if I was really gonna put it down, so if you're gonna keep the bus over 12 years, it's just like the diesel buses. I mean, the life of that motor is not done, but I can't say how much farther it could go. The cost of the new propane engine is $10,000. So they could put a whole new engine in it for $10,000.
Thank you.
Yep.
When your price per gallon is $1.20, how did you come up with that, and what do you put on volatility? Because propane, it seems like it's pretty volatile on cold years, and that's when they'd be probably using most of it. We always go through winter time and school time.
Sure.
Another thing that a little bit concerned is, for some reason, we're having trouble getting propane in Iowa. What's up with that?
Well, so that's a whole different ball of wax to talk about. But I'll start first off. The $1.20 is where I would have contracted you guys at this year.
Is that got road use tax figured out?
So that would have been everything included.
So that's what the road use. So
Yep.
the propane cost would be somewhere around, what, 80 cents?
And as I said, so our contracting is like most other fuels, we can contract a year out. and even up to 2 years out. That way you guys could set your budget and be accurate. Yeah. So the volatility of the market or consumption or supply?
Volatility of the market, because it seems like on a cold year, propane always gets higher.
Sure, supply and demand.
Right.
Doing a contract takes that all off the table.
So, if you can get propane for 80 cents, I'd like to talk to you. On your way out. I like the contract stuff.
I also said that was at the start of the year. Yeah. So, I don't know if anybody's ever been around propane over the years at all. Through the years, there's tractors that run off of it, still run off of it. A lot of people with pickups, stuff like that. The technology, like on anything else, is keep improving. If I am correct, right now the Bluebird propane bus is on its 4th generation.
It's on the 4th gen, yes, sir.
So it keeps improving every year. But it's already proven here in Missouri. And this is also, a local product that a local distributor could bring to the table. The one thing I was going to touch on, if you guys would look at going with the propane system, Prairieland FS would supply the infrastructure of a filling station that you need here. So the only associated cost with that would just be some small install things there at the site. But we would supply all the infrastructure, which in this case would be a 1,000-gallon tank with a cabinet in front of it that would have the pump, the hose, and everything in. And for the drivers, there'd be training involved that we would do every year with them, just to train, make sure everybody's doing it right. Not only we got that, but we have local service.
That's a free training?
Correct. Yep.
What are your fill times on propane versus?
It'll feel just like a gasoline or diesel pump. Yep.
Similar.
Yep. And they actually use a nozzle now. They call it the Euro nozzle. If you guys had ever seen or had propane at your house, you would saw the driver go out, he sticks something on there and spins it on, turns it on, pumps it. This is actually almost like what they call a stab fitting, to where the person, it looks like an oversized gas nozzle. You just walk up to it, squeeze the handle, and you push on it. That's it. And when it's done, it pops off. There's no screwing. Yeah, the only gas you would hear, if you heard it, and it had to be in a room like this with no wind, is about that much of a release. Because of the auto gas situation for untrained people to fill out in the public, they made the industry come out with a different style of nozzle with what they call zero emissions. So there's not gas escaping or somebody not doing it correctly with the older style.
I have a question.
Yep.
What about the safety, because propane.
This is a bus. Yeah.
Right, so if you somebody hits the bus, is it gonna explode?
No.
I mean, what keeps it, the safety of the bus?
So,
Propane.
I'll touch on this just a little bit, but I'll just let Chad go first to talk actually how they designed that. Yep.
So we test these tanks up to 1,200 PSIs in a water tank. So we first test that there. They're over 20 times stronger than a gasoline tank. It's an eighth thick steel that we make the tanks out of. They're all past the regulations of the NFPA 58 regulations, so they all pass that. Bluebird actually does two different testings. They do it from a rear crash test with a 4,000-pound sled at 40 miles an hour, and they also do one on a side impact as well. Both have passed, over 30 minutes passed, no leakage, no pressure drops. So these are very safe, very safe.
And he touched on the propane shortage. Would that be the case for a school?
No. So with the dryer, the ag side, so if you look at the pyramid, residential and schools would be at the same category, and then we go to ag and commercial. So I've been doing propane now for my 24th year, and there's never been a time to where I would have to tell somebody no. So, So the other side of the propane flammability, propane actually has the lowest flammability of all three fuels, gas, propane, and diesel. Because of the window where it will ignite. So if you think about taking a pebble and throwing it in the water, and you see the ripple effects. So when that happens and the gas leak spreads, there's a very short window where propane will ignite. Because it'll start out too rich, and then it's a very short window where it will ignite, and then it's too thin to ignite. So even over gasoline or diesel, propane is the least flammable.
John, on the DARA grant here, you have 45% on diesel and propane units. But when I talk to DNR, it's, the most you can get is like 21 or 22,000. I know we have a neighboring school here that applied, and that's the most they can get on those buses is like 20 or 22,000.
Okay.
Is this for this round that just passed, or is this next one coming up?
Be the next one coming up.
Okay, and the next one coming up, DNR says you can get up to 90% on an electric bus.
Okay.
So
Sure.
that's, I just didn't know, because when I called, even to replace it with a diesel, they're like, you know, the most we could get was 20,000.
So what's the, is 45% though is correct on electric right now?
On the, for the one that expired on October 30th, it was 45% on.
Was 45%?
But the one coming out in January, then it can be up to 90%. So do you know, is the 45%, that's for both the diesel and the
That's what I was
propane in
told.
January? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No question? Well, thanks everybody for your time. Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to,
Yeah, very much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
They heard we didn't have a full meal.
Well, I thought you guys always have steak and, yeah.
Yeah, no,
You guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
okay, it brings us to set filing dates for the April 7th, 2020 elections. Oh,
No, that's, remember we tabled that.
oh, we tabled it.
On there?
It's still on there. No, it's
I think
mine.
I'm on the right
I'm
one.
I'll go straight to the.
Oh, you might still have
I
your old
still
one.
have the old one up.
Okay.
so I'm bad.
Well, no, that's good, that means you've been looking at it for.
Okay,
I'll just, the easiest way to do this is to read it, and then you guys can act on the motion. So this would be setting for the filing date, the election's on April 7th, 2020. To set the dates for the Board of Education candidate filing for 3 positions to begin December 17th, 2019 at 8:00 a.m. and to end January 21st, 2020 at 5:00 p.m. during regular business hours Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., extended to 5:00 on that last day of January 21st, 2020, the last day to file. Filing will not occur on any days the district superintendent's office is closed due to inclement weather. File will also not occur from December 23rd through January 3rd, 2020, due to the superintendent's office being closed for the holidays.
23rd to what?
To the 3rd.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Copy your lease agreement.
All right, so our 5-year lease was up with our copiers. We currently have 6 copiers, and when I was talking to our current copier company, I was trying to determine what do we want to, what kind of specifications do we want to put out there. Well, one of the comments they made was over the last 5 years, we've reduced how much we use the copiers by about 70%. So then the question became, do we really need 6 copiers? Because we pay for those copiers every month on the lease. So the different offices, we felt we could go down to just 1 copier in the elementary school, 1 in the middle school, and 1 and the central office would be a color copier, so when we're doing programs, Steve says it's a lot cheaper to do them through a copier than it is through a printer, and get some print cartridges. So, this lease, over the 5-year period would save us $11,000 a year for 5 years. So again, our whole reduction of paper is really reaping some rewards all over the place. So we had 3 companies bid. GFI Digital, who is the company we have right now that we've been really happy with, they were the lowest company in this. We'll be putting brand new sharp copiers in those offices. So I'd like to recommend GFI Digital to enter into a lease for 5 years for these copiers.
So do you pay, like, you get so many copies with
So,
that?
so they gave me two quotes. And that's why I had to call them. I said, is this right? So the one quote says, because we do on average about 67,000 copies a month. So the one quote was good for 67,000 copies, and it's $760.99 a month. And then after that, you pay .00463 per page after that. So I was doing the math, because the other ones, you don't get any copies, you pay the .00463, same amount per copy, but your monthly payment's $450.78. So I multiplied that by 67,000, added it to this, and it was the same payment. So I called him, I said, so why would I do this in the event that one month we do less? Well, let's talk about June, July, and August.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you'd be crazy to do the other one. So I was like, okay, we'll do the one where we don't include the copies, because there's no advantage to it. And you would think this one here.
Well, the advantage to the other one would be if you went over, I guess, 67,000.
Right, but you're still gonna pay the same amount. If you go
Yeah.
80,000 copies, you're gonna pay the same amount here. If the amount was different after the overage, then you might save money. Or if this amount was cheaper, and you're guaranteed 67 copies.
That's
So
what they are.
yeah, that's the way it usually is, but not this time. So I'd like to recommend the $450.78 a month, and then we'll pay for whatever copies.
So,
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Policy and regulation update.
So when you click on that link, I just put 2 options to that regulation as far as for the leave for not bereavement, for subpoena. The first option is what I recommended last time, and I still feel like that's my recommendation. And then you have the other option, which is a paid option. Those are the 2 options. And
I guess since I am the one that kind of tabled this, I still feel like the jury duty and being subpoenaed are against your free part of having to appear. It's required if you're subpoenaed, it's required if you're there for jury duty, and I don't think that teacher, whether it's a teacher or anybody else, they don't have a choice when they're subpoenaed, that they have to be there, and I just feel like they should be paid the same as they're gonna be paid to be on the jury. And I mean, if someone wanted to be really vindictive, you know, if you had a case, you could subpoena every teacher out there to come, if you wanted to be that vindictive, and they'd be required to be there, and it could be even more vindictive than saying you have to be there at 9 o'clock until I'm done, and not at a certain time.
that might be easier, though. We cancel school like that today.
Well, that's a possibility, but, I don't know, I just feel like you don't have a choice. They don't have a choice, no matter who they are, whether they're there for a student of our school or they're there for something else. They don't have that choice. So I would like to recommend the paid option.
my thought is considering no more often than it does happen, you know, I think what we have had here, is probably a little bit more extraordinary than what we would typically have. I think prior to that, maybe one case, I mean, it's not like it happens every week. So no more than it happens, I would agree, and I would second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion, and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-2.
Thank you.
Oh, finally put it in the website.
Thanks, you, Shelley.
Well, if anything works. I move that we adjourn the regular session to go in closed session for the purpose of considering the following. Students under section 610.021, subsection 6 and 14. Personnel under section 610.021, subsections 3 and 13.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mrs. Butte,
Yes.
Mr. Cardwell,
Yeah.
Mrs. Creevy,
Yes.
Mr. Reel. Motion carries 7-0.